I'll show that all councilors are present, and our next order of business is the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have an agenda before us, changes, additions or deletions.
Mr. Mayor, before we approve the agenda, I'd like to move items 4.6 and 4.7 to new business. There's just a couple minor adjustments to those job descriptions after my conversation this afternoon with Assistant Chief Vicari.
Okay, put on that 7.0 then.
Okay. Otherwise, I have no other changes to the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
A motion. Dick,
Second.
was there a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. That brings us to the consent agenda. Besides 4.6 and 4.7, is there anything anybody would like to pull off the consent agenda?
I'll approve the consent agenda, moving 4.6 and 4.7 to 7.0 on consent.
Second.
Motion made in second, all in favor? Aye, opposed? That all carries. All right, that brings us to open forum. I think I saw all of you last week, so you know the rules. 3 minutes. We're not gonna talk about legal stuff and, let's have it. State your name and address and what you want to say. Wow, okay. Let's move on then, old business, 6.1, fee schedule amendment for building permit fees.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Before you is ordinance 847, amending our building permit fee schedule to be more in line with UBC building code. I did make some minor adjustments that we talked about at the last meeting. We struck some things that we either have in other parts of our fee schedule or things that we are not going to charge for. And then there's some minor formatting. I have all of that in the copy that was in your packet, so I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but if you have any other questions, let me know.
We hit that pretty hard last time, so
Make a motion to approve ordinance 847-2024 fee schedule amendment.
Second.
motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Moving on to the vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That carries. That brings us to new business, 7.0. We've got two job descriptions that we're making some adjustments.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Assistant Fire Chief Vicari gave me a call late this afternoon. Under the under the minimum qualifications, we have a requirement for ICS 300 and 400. Those are really for emergency management, large incident scene command, typically taught by Homeland Security through the state of Minnesota. I would like to recommend that those go under a preferred qualification as opposed to a minimum qualification. And then for the emergency management job description, we would also put those two, Josh, correct me, they're certifications, correct? Those same certifications as a preferred qualification for the emergency manager position. So those would be the two very minor changes I would like to be authorized to make. And then the rest of the request stands to post the chief's job description for hiring and to allow Mr. Lawrence to remain as the emergency manager for the city at a quarter-time position.
Questions, anybody?
So we can take one action on both of these items. right?
I prefer one motion for each job description, please, as they were stated in the original consent agenda.
I'll move approval of 4.6, which was moved to new business.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the amended fire chief job description. Is there any questions? Hearing,
Also be to authorize the posting as well, correct?
I believe that would be appropriate.
No questions.
Any other? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries. And I'll move to the part-time emergency manager job description. That would be 4.7 up in the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the changes for the emergency management position. Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there discussion on that?
So bad time, Mark. Phone's even on silent. Sorry.
And again, that would be to authorize Ron remaining in the position, correct?
That is what the motion states. Hearing no discussion, all in favor of approval of 4.7, original 4.7 with the changes, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Also carries. All right. We're good on that part. Let's move on to Neighbors Bar and Grill 2 AM liquor license renewal request.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as we started reviewing these yearly, I did get the request about a month ago. Todd ran some reports, so it is here for you to, approve or deny, and I did tell Joel that we were gonna have it on the meeting, and I do not see him here, so.
He just texted me and said that he is out of town, so he's not able to make it.
You know, I'm gonna ask.
I was just waiting for the question. I'm assuming your question is call wise. We had 2 calls last year, past the hour of clock. One of them was an employee call for a threats complaint, and then the other one was a trespass complaint. So other than those 2 calls, they've all been. Yeah, just 2 after 2, yeah. And they both really didn't pertain to, standard stuff.
Well, I appreciate the fact that he's trying to be a good corporate citizen, so I'm willing to renew this thing. I don't have a problem.
I make a motion to renew the Neighbors 2 AM liquor license.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. That brings us to bill list.
I don't have any questions. Anybody else?
Oh,
No.
I mean,
I move to approve the February 8, 2024 check register containing checks 87785 to 87860 in the amount of $739,794.73. And the payroll electronic payments as noted on the pay period 3 transmittal register in the amount of $92,057.57. And pay period 3 check register in the amount of $159,871.42.
Motion made and second. Any other discussion on the bills? None, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries. Brings us to 7.3 PUC fund transfer.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as was reported by Councilor Edmonds at the January 25 meeting, the PUC has are elected to provide a fund transfer to the city. The information is included in your packet. The amount of the payment is $53,554, at their meeting and reflected in the minutes of that of the January 25th meeting. You want to see report that they would like to see the monies used for infrastructure and to assist the city with future growth. We did not anticipate this transfer, so it was not budgeted for. So I'm looking for direction from the council as to where you would like the money to be deposited. We're just kind of sitting on the check right now. We have to GL code it somewhere. I have provided two options for your consideration this evening. One would be to direct the funds towards the Business Park Street and Utility Project. If the council would recall our conversation, probably in August of last year, we figured out after lot sales and all of the grants that we've received, we have about $116,000 out of pocket roughly that the city would pay in cash for that project. The other alternative would be for the council to choose to direct the funds to the general fund street budget to offset the costs of our annual seal coating program. So those are the two options for you to consider. Otherwise, we could, I could probably find a place to put it in a special revenue fund, and it could just kind of hang out for a while. But those were my two thoughts of an immediate need for the city.
Before we go farther, is there anything else that pops into mind from council where this could go?
What do you want to start?
If you've got another choice, I mean, let's hear it.
I don't have none myself, speak for myself, but the first option to me, it's a utility generated funds from another department, city department, independent of the regular city budget. And option one is kind of addresses our, as a commissioner, for city growth, which is the business park, and utilities, which is kind of has a link, I guess. So that'd be my preference, option one.
Yeah, option one is my preference as well. Well, it also says use for infrastructure. Growth and infrastructure. So it looks like, yeah, it looks like the 116,000 out of our pocket. And the seal coat, if you take the 200,000 minus 67, that leaves 133,000 out of our pocket, correct?
Correct.
You know, we're taking money out of reserves to pay the business park. This will go back into reserves basically. And it does, you know, check the box that the UC would like to have checked.
Well, it's all gonna come out in the same bottom line anyway.
So I think you got three people that are in agreement. I'm in agreement, number one. But I'll entertain any conversation to change my mind.
I think it's appropriate also to go to the business park infrastructure because that's increasing your territory, so it's, you know, it's appropriate.
Yeah, can I motion?
I'll make a motion to do option one.
Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Bi-weekly report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Baldwin Township Incorporation, we are meeting weekly as a staff, to stay on top of the preparation for the hearing in March. I will have an item on the February 22nd agenda to cancel the study session, since it's the same day as that hearing. And if we think there may be a quorum of the council who attends that hearing, we may want to just post it as a potential special meeting, outside of the study session. So Sean and I will work on the language for that. But just we don't want to inadvertently violate the open meeting law. The building inspection transition is working, pretty well. Inspect has been here twice this week. Stacy and Mary Lou, should be given kudos. They've done a lot of work. There's a lot of changeover in forms and handouts and calling people, telling them the new inspection number. I don't know how many phone calls did you make on Monday? A lot. So, we haven't, didn't have any, developer discussions in the last 2 weeks, but however, I did receive a verbal offer for the 40 acres that we own on the, west side of the airport. And it is over the estimated market value. If there are no oppositions to selling that property, we'll put together a purchase agreement and bring it back for the council to consider.
No, she has a question. No, she didn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, think about that, everybody.
Okay. All right. We have news in the election front. We will be busy, end of February and through mid-March. I've listed the, election dates. We have a special primary and a special election for House District 27B. And there's also a presidential primary on March 5th. So, Shauna has procured the necessary election judges. This was, the special primary and special election were unanticipated, and so that does have a bit of a budget impact. And then I'd just like to acknowledge senior accountant Hodges' work. She has managed to move all of our payroll direct deposit from First Bank and Trust to Bremer. And as a result, we no longer have to have a separate payroll transfer check, and there's been a number of steps that were eliminated in doing payroll. And then last but not least, attached to the report is LMC's legislative preview presentation and their priorities for 2024. I guess I would forewarn everybody that because it's not a budget year, it is a bonding year potentially. There will likely be a lot more policy changes coming out of this legislative session. So that'll be interesting to see what they float downstream for us to address. Also, one of the other takeaways is that there will be a structural imbalance in the 2026-2027 biennium. That's just a fancy way of saying there's going to be a deficit. So anyway, so that's it for the legislative update, and then just the laundry list of upcoming meetings and reminders. So that's all I got.
All right. Any questions for Michelle? Hearing none, let's go on to committee reports.
Yeah, I don't have a report, but we covered, public utilities fund transfer tonight, so need my input.
So we had a fire advisory board meeting last night. A lot of things were discussed. I think the big takeaway is that a lot of things were discussed and it stayed that way. So that was nice. I think we're working in the same direction. So, we have some questions to work through on fire contract. We have some updates on trucks and truck fund. And we've got we had some fire chief position discussion, and as well as the Wyatt satellite building. Mostly just questions at this point. So, but discussion's ongoing. Is that pretty accurate?
That was good.
That's all I have.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.